What's good, Hoop Scoop fam? It's your boy Jake Wilbur, and today we're talking about the Western Conference team that no one's talking about. Let's go! That's right, guys. Every year in the NBA, there's always a team or two that is able to make their way into the playoffs that didn't make it from the year before because of an acquisition or a trade, free agency, whatever it might be. There's always a team or two that's able to sneak into the playoffs and kind of make some noise. And that team this year, for me, in the Western Conference at least, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are dramatically improved from last year when they only won 31 games. They're not even to the All-Star break this year, and they've already won 29 with 36 games left to be played. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a few keys to why there is such a big turnaround in the Minnesota Timberwolves organization with basically the same team they had last year with the exception of one big acquisition. So obviously last year, everyone was super excited about this young Timberwolves team, the way Karl Anthony Towns looked, the way Andrew Wiggins looked, and they're just really excited about where the organization was going. But that didn't really necessarily turn into wins last year, only registering 31 wins over the entire NBA season. And with the new acquisition of Jimmy Buckets, they have been on an absolute tear in the West. They're sitting at 4th right now in the Western Conference standings in a West that's absolutely loaded this year. To date, the Timberwolves have already won 23 games in the Western Conference, posting a record of 23-6 against Western Conference opponents. But with Minnesota being such a small NBA market, you don't really hear a ton about the Minnesota Timberwolves and what's going on in their organization. So the major issue last year with the Timberwolves was the fact that they just couldn't close out a fourth quarter. Tom Thibodeau's team, who is usually known for playing really good defense, grinded out type teams like those teams that he had in Boston when he was under Doc Rivers, and those teams in Chicago when they were just really good defensively. But Minnesota with their youth last year just weren't really able to close out games on a night-to-night basis. They weren't able to win in the fourth quarter. With the acquisition of Jimmy Butler into that lineup for the Timberwolves that are a really young team, one of the youngest teams in the NBA with guys like Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, dudes like that they're kind of building their franchise around. Then you input a leader like Jimmy Butler into the mix, and he has definitely lifted up the Wolves team as a whole and helped them finish out fourth quarters down the stretch. Another reason why I really like the acquisition of Jimmy Butler is just the fact that he's played under Tibbs before. He understands what it means to be a pro on a night-to-night basis, and he understands what it means to bring it every single night. The other night, the Wolves ended up losing a real bad loss to the Orlando Magic because they just kind of came in and they're like, hey man, we're better than they are, we should win. But that's not the way it works in the NBA. Any team can lose on any given night. And after that horrendous loss to the Orlando Magic, Jimmy Butler did what you would want any leader to do in that situation. And he called out the young bucks on that team, saying that they didn't bring it and that they need to humble themselves, and that he was, quote, glad we lost. This is the type of behavior that you want from a leader, a guy to lead your franchise. And this is what Minnesota needed. They needed a guy to come in, dude that's proven, a guy that works on both ends of the floor to kind of close out ball games for a young team like the Minnesota Timberwolves. They may be talented, but they needed that leader to kind of get them over the hump, and Jimmy Buckets has done that for them thus far this season. So the real question is, are the Timberwolves contenders in the West to fight for a Western Conference crown and maybe even an NBA Finals crown? The answer to that question is still to be seen. This year, I just don't see it happening. The West is far too loaded, but I really like the pieces that Minnesota has put in place with guys like Jeff Teague running the point. He's been in the playoffs before. He's a veteran. He kind of has been there, done that, and is able to help this team along fundamentally and developing into the team that they want to be in the future. But with young guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, I think that the sky's the limit, because Wiggins has had a slightly disappointing season thus far, but it's kind of different getting used to play with another guy that's kind of a superstar type player like Jimmy Butler. Karl Anthony Towns is still one of the greatest young talents in the league. He's a guy that can stretch the floor, and he's kind of a new age center. And then you have the X factor, which is Jimmy Buckets. He helped the Chicago Bulls basically put him on his back last year in the playoffs and won a few games for that Bulls team that really wasn't that good to begin with. You see it now without him. So I can't really say that I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are necessarily legitimate NBA Finals contenders, but I do think the sky's the limit for this team, and I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that everybody should have on their radar because they're definitely one of the best young up-and-coming teams in the NBA today. I honestly can't wait to see what Jimmy Butler is able to do leading that franchise under a guy like Thibodeau, who you know demands excellence out of his players. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video, but I wanted to pop in and say thanks real quick. That Raptors video we did has almost gotten to 3,000 views. You guys are awesome. I'm really glad you guys are liking the content, and let's keep the thing rolling. Tell your friends about Hoop Scoop TV, and let's get a solid basketball community together. As always guys, if you're new to Hoop Scoop TV, you're gonna want to do a few things. First, subscribe to us. We're putting out great NBA ball content weekly, and I promise you'll enjoy it. The second thing you want to do is leave a comment behind. Let us know what you want to see next. We're a channel for the people, by the people, and I run everything I do content-wise off of your guys' requests. The last thing you want to do is tell your friends and family about what we're doing over here at Hoop Scoop TV. Anybody that is a basketball fan is going to love our content, so make sure you send them our way. And then last but not least, don't forget to like this video. I really appreciate what you guys are doing to help grow the channel. You guys are awesome. Alright guys, as always, this is Jake Wilbur with Hoop Scoop TV, and until next time, we out.